The alien walked through the barracks with human skin stretched over its frame, and nobody noticed the way its breath came half a second too slow. Reed Crane had been inside the human military for 47 days, and the weight of pretending crushed inward with every hour. The synthetic dermal layer itched where it met Zervek flesh underneath, paper-thin membranes that could slip through ventilation shafts, that could flatten against bulkheads and become invisible. Here, compressed into the shape of a junior communications officer, Reed felt like a scream held inside a box. The mission was simple: infiltrate, observe, report the tactical weaknesses that would let the Zervek Dominion crack humanity's last defensive line at Covenant Station. 43 species had fallen to this method. Humans would be 44. Reed's fingers, 5 instead of the natural 7, typed access codes into the terminal. Around the officer's mess, soldiers ate protein paste and laughed at jokes Reed didn't understand. One of them, Julia Stanton, glanced over from the far table. Her eyes lingered. Reed's heart, the human-shaped organ the infiltration suit generated, beat faster. "Crane, you come into the briefing?" Stanton called. 2 minutes, Reed said, and the voice came out perfectly flat, perfectly human. Stanton nodded and turned away. Reed's fingers trembled over the keyboard. The trembling wasn't part of the act. The data Reed had gathered sat encrypted in the suit's biological storage. Troop movements, weapons caches, the rotation schedules for Covenant Station's orbital defense grid. Fleet Admiral Nate Aldridge had been careless in Reed's presence 3 times. Once would have been enough. Reed uploaded the final packet and felt it compress into the transmission node grafted where a human liver should be. Tonight, during the 3rd sleep cycle, the data would pulse outward on a frequency humanity's sensors couldn't detect. By morning, the Dominion's warfleet would know exactly where to strike. The door to the mess hall slid open. Aldridge himself stepped through, his uniform crisp despite the recycled air that made everyone else look wilted. He scanned the room and his gaze locked onto Reed. "Crane, my office, now." Reed stood, and the human legs felt suddenly unreliable. The walk down the corridor stretched infinite. Aldridge's boots struck the deck plating in a rhythm that sounded like counting down. Reed's mind calculated 17 different exit routes and found all of them useless. If the Admiral knew, if somehow the disguise had failed, Aldridge's office was smaller than Reed expected. The Admiral sat behind a metal desk and gestured to the chair across from it. "Close the door," Aldridge said. Reed obeyed. The click of the lock felt like a blade sliding home. Aldridge pulled up a holo display. Reed's false service record hovered in blue light. "You've been here 6 weeks. Exemplary performance. Never late, never complain, never socialize more than protocol requires." "I take my duties seriously, sir," Reed said. "That's the problem." Aldridge leaned forward. "Every human I've ever met is a mess of contradictions. They're late, they complain, they fall in love with people they shouldn't. You know what you are, Crane?" Reed's throat, the synthetic one, tightened. "You're perfect," Aldridge continued, "and perfect people make me nervous." The silence stretched. Reed calculated the distance to the door, the weight of the human body, the time it would take to shed the skin and compress into something small enough to slip through the ventilation. 4 seconds. Too long. Aldridge smiled. "So I'm assigning you to Stanton's unit. She's got a gift for breaking in the 2 rigid types. Maybe she'll teach you how to be human." The relief came so fast it felt like falling. "Yes, sir." Dismissed. Reed stood, walked to the door, and didn't let the human legs shake until the corridor was empty. That night, during the 3rd sleep cycle, Reed lay in the narrow bunk and felt the transmission node activate. The data packet pulsed outward, a whisper of quantum-entangled particles carrying every secret humanity thought it had kept. Somewhere beyond the station, Zervek receivers would catch it. War Commander Zyrax would read it, and the Dominion fleet would move. Reed stared at the ceiling and tried to feel victorious. The feeling didn't come. The next morning, Stanton found Reed in the armory, checking weapon diagnostics. She leaned against the doorframe with her arms crossed, and her expression unreadable. "Aldridge says you're with me now," Stanton said. "Apparently," Reed replied. "You know why he does this? Pairs the loners with the units?" Stanton stepped closer. "He thinks isolation makes people crack. Thinks we all need connection to stay functional." Reed looked up from the diagnostic screen. "Do you believe that?" Stanton's eyes were gray, the color of deep space between stars. "I think people surprise you. Come on, we've got patrol duty in the outer ring." The outer ring of Covenant Station curved like a rib cage around the civilian sectors. Through the viewports, stars hung in formations Reed had memorized from Zervek navigation charts. Everything was going according to plan. In 72 hours, those stars would be filled with Dominion warships. Stanton walked ahead, her plasma rifle held loose and ready. "You ever think about what happens after?" she asked. "After what?" "After we win. After the Zervek stop pushing at our borders and we get to just exist." Stanton paused at a viewport. "My daughter's 7. She's never seen a sky that isn't a dome or a ship's hull. I want her to see clouds. Reed's human heart did something painful. You have a daughter. On Ashpool Colony. I send her videos every week, but it's not the same as being there. Stanton turned away from the viewport. What about you, Crane? What do you fight for? The question landed like a blade between Reed's ribs. The real answer, Zervek Dominion, the collective, the inevitable expansion, felt suddenly thin. Reed had spent 47 days watching humans laugh over terrible food, had seen them exhausted and terrified, and still choosing kindness when it cost them nothing to be cruel. I'm not sure anymore, Reed said, and it was the first true thing spoken since the infiltration began. Stanton studied Reed's face. That's the most human thing you've said since you got here. The alarm cut through the station like a scream. Red lights flooded the corridor. Stanton's rifle came up instantly. Reed's combat reflexes, the real ones, the Zervek ones, wanted to flatten against the wall and disappear. The human body wouldn't let it. Report! Stanton barked into her comm. Aldridge's voice crackled through. Dominion fleet just dropped out of FTL. 73 ships. They know exactly where our weak points are. Reed's stolen heart stopped. How? Stanton demanded. Doesn't matter now. All personnel to battle stations. Crane, you're with Stanton. Move. They ran. The station shuddered as the first railgun volley hammered into the outer shields. Reed's mind fractured into two voices. The Zervek infiltrator screaming that the mission was complete, that humanity's fall had begun, and something else, something newer, that sounded like Julia Stanton saying, "My daughter's 7. The command center was chaos. Holographic displays showed the Dominion fleet in perfect formation, targeting the exact weak points Reed had reported. The UEF Resolute led humanity's defensive line, but it was 12 ships against 73. Aldridge stood at the center of it all, his face carved from stone. They're not engaging. They're waiting. For what? Stanton asked. For us to surrender. Aldridge pulled up a communication request. The screen filled with War Commander Zyrax's face, angular, chrome-plated, the 3 optical sensors glowing amber. Let's hear what he has to say. Zyrax's voice came through with harmonics that made Reed's hidden form ache. Admiral Aldridge, you have fought well. Your tactical adaptations cost us 6 ships at the threshold gate, and your defense of Ashpool Colony was admirable. But this ends now. I have data from inside your station. I know where every weapon is placed, where every soldier sleeps. Surrender, and I will allow evacuation of civilians. Aldridge's jaw tightened. And if we refuse? Then I will demonstrate why 43 species chose surrender over annihilation. The channel closed. Aldridge turned to his command staff. Options. We can't win this, one officer said. Not with those numbers, not when they know everything. Stanton looked at Reed. Something in her expression shifted. Unless they don't know everything. Reed felt the synthetic skin go cold. What are you thinking? Aldridge asked. Stanton's hand moved to her sidearm. I'm thinking Crane has been perfect. I'm thinking the Zervek specialize in infiltrators. And I'm thinking maybe our spy is standing right here. Quick pause. If this story has you hooked, subscribe now and hit the bell. Now, back to it. Reed could have run, could have shed the human skin in seconds and become invisible. Instead, Reed stood perfectly still and met Stanton's gray eyes. You're right, Reed said. The command center went silent. Aldridge's hand moved to his weapon. Stanton's was already drawn. I am Zervek, Reed continued. The human voice cracked. I infiltrated 6 weeks ago. I sent the tactical data that brought the fleet here. Everything Zyrax knows, he knows because of me. Stanton's finger moved to the trigger. Give me one reason not to end you. Reed looked at her, at Aldridge, at the officers who had eaten breakfast 3 tables away for 47 mornings. Because I can give you something Zyrax doesn't expect. I can give you the truth. We've got 90 seconds before he demands an answer, Aldridge said. Talk fast. Reed's fingers moved across the tactical display. The Zervek fleet formation appeared in precise detail. Zyrax believes humans fight like the other 43 species. Predictably, desperately. He's positioned his fleet to counter every conventional defense. But the data I sent him is 6 hours old. If you reposition now, if you move the Resolute and the defense platforms to these coordinates, Reed's fingers flew, marking positions, you'll create a gap that looks like panic. Zyrax will interpret it as collapse. He'll move his command ship forward to accept surrender. And then? Stanton asked, her weapon still trained on Reed's head. And then you'll have the Dominion's war commander in range of every weapon you moved into the gap. Aldridge studied the display. That's a suicide run for the Resolute. No, Reed said. It's a sacrifice Zyrax won't expect, because Zervek would never make it. We don't understand the concept. We've conquered 43 species, and never once have we seen a leader deliberately risk everything for subordinates. Reed's voice dropped. I didn't understand it either. until I watched you people choose each other every single day. Stanton's weapon didn't lower. Why are you doing this? Reed looked at her. Because your daughter deserves to see clouds. Aldridge's hand slammed down on the comm. All ships, new positioning. Resolute takes point. Make it look panicked. Defense platforms fall back to these coordinates. Move like we're broken. The UEF fleet scattered. On the Dominion displays, it would look like humanity's last stand collapsing. Zyrax's ships advanced, his command vessel Sovereign Wrath pushing forward through the gap. He's taking the bait, Stanton breathed. The Sovereign Wrath crossed into the killing zone. Every weapon Covenant Station possessed opened fire simultaneously. Railguns, plasma batteries, torpedo spreads that had been positioned exactly where Reed's false data said they wouldn't be. The Dominion flagship's shields flared and collapsed. Its hull cracked open like an egg. Zyrax's face appeared on every screen, his optical sensors flickering. He saw the trap. He saw his fleet scattered, his formation broken, and he saw, somehow, that the impossible had happened. His voice came through damaged audio. You had an infiltrator. I received the data. How? Aldridge leaned toward the camera. Your infiltrator decided humans were worth protecting. You want to know why you've never conquered us? Because we do something you can't comprehend. We change. We adapt. And sometimes, we even change each other. The Sovereign Wrath's core detonated. The explosion took 6 escort ships with it. The Dominion fleet hesitated. For the first time in 43 conquests, they had no protocol for this. Their war commander was dead, killed by intelligence they themselves had gathered. The human fleet pressed forward, and the Zervek ships began to scatter. A new voice came through the comm, older, layered with harmonics that spoke of deep authority. I am Archon Verlis of the Zervek Dominion. To the humans of Covenant Station, I propose immediate ceasefire. Aldridge glanced at Reed. Reed nodded. We're listening, Aldridge said. We have studied you for 6 cycles. We have infiltrated your settlements, observed your tactics, cataloged your weaknesses. And yet, you persist. You transform our own weapons into tools of your survival. Verlis paused. War Commander Zyrax believed conquest was inevitable. I believe it may be impossible. I wish to discuss terms. Stanton's weapon finally lowered. They're surrendering? They're learning, Reed said quietly. Maybe for the first time. The negotiations took 4 hours. The Dominion fleet withdrew to the outer marker buoys. Verlis agreed to open diplomatic channels, to cease infiltration operations, to return territory taken from 3 species who had fought alongside humanity. In exchange, humanity agreed to share tactical data on the ancient enemy that had forced the Zervek into their expansion in the first place. An enemy humanity had fought to a stalemate near the galactic rim. When it was done, Aldridge turned to Reed. You're still a spy who infiltrated a military installation. I should lock you in the brig. I know, Reed said, but you're also the reason we're not all dead. Aldridge rubbed his face. I'm going to make a decision I'll probably regret. Stanton, Crane is your responsibility. Don't make me regret it more. Stanton holstered her weapon. Yes, sir. They walked back through the corridors together. The station smelled like burned wiring and recycled air and human sweat. Reed would never stop being alien here, would never fully belong. But when Stanton's hand briefly touched Reed's shoulder, the weight of it felt like an anchor instead of a chain. I need to see it, Reed said. Your daughter's sky. When this is over, when things are stable, I need to understand what I chose to protect. Stanton stopped at a viewport. Beyond it, the stars were clear and cold and infinite. You'll see it. I'll take you to Ashpool myself. She smiled, tired and real. Just try to be a little less perfect, okay? It's unsettling. Reed tried to smile back. The human face made it awkward. I'll work on it. 3 months later, Reed stood on Ashpool Colony's surface and watched clouds move across an open sky. Stanton's daughter held her mother's hand and pointed at shapes in the white masses. A ship, a flower, a star. Reed had sent one final message to the Dominion. It contained no tactical data, no intelligence, just a single observation. Humans are dangerous not because they are strong, but because they teach you to want what they have. The response came from Archon Verlis himself. Message received and understood. Reed tilted the human face upward and let sunlight, real sunlight, unfiltered by ship hulls or station domes, warm synthetic skin. The clouds moved like living things, and somewhere in their shifting forms, Reed saw the outline of the person this body was slowly becoming.